And joining us now to continue the discussion is political expert Vince Casillas. Thanks so much for being here.
It's good to be here.
Thank you for being here. That's what we're actually trying to break down, what the implications of this could be. If this does not lead to impeachment, then how do you think this could affect the 2020 election moving forward?
Well, look, the big question is going to be, whose base is going to get more riled up? I mean, because both bases are going to get riled up. But the thing I'm thinking about, too, is how is this going to actually activate new voters? And really, the voters that are going to matter the most in this election are that 10% independent base. Mm-hmm. And so how is this going to affect their thinking or sway their vote? Is this going to turn them off? Is this going to, actually get them more involved in the political process? So I think it remains to be seen. But clearly on the Democratic side, there's a lot of appetite for these impeachment proceedings. Last night I was watching Stephen Colbert, and when he announced it, I mean, the audience stood up and gave like a 5-minute standing ovation. So there's clearly out there an appetite for this. But at the same time, I mean, Democrats need to be very careful. They don't want to do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be how clear the results of this latest inquiry, how clear they come out. Just because when the Mueller report came out, I think most of America was like, well, what does this really mean? Mm-hmm. And they didn't really get a clear answer. So I think it'll depend what will the results and what can this mean.
Right. You look at past impeachments, obviously Andrew Johnson impeached. That's around the Civil War period, a contentious time for the country. Richard Nixon wasn't impeached, resigned before he could. Bill Clinton, people still view that. A lot of Democrats view that as a partisan attack against the president, really not based in much in terms of legally. I guess the concern I have is if the House and the president are of differing parties, does this set a dangerous precedent moving forward that any time that those two bodies are different political parties, it could cause people to try and do things political and use impeachment as a vehicle to, kind of change the election?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it does. And I think that's why there was hesitation by Nancy Pelosi to come to this place. They thought that through. And so I think you're going to hopefully see, a fair proceeding, a very transparent proceeding. And that's going to be important so that the public doesn't see this as just, rivals, fighting against each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi had to come out last night and say no president is above the law, but it is very political. If you get through the House and the House votes on it, when it gets to the Senate and the Senate stops it dead, then when does politics have to give way for justice?
Yeah. Well, and I think, what we're going to probably see is, candidates for running for president are going to have to take a stand on this, but I also think that we're going to have to just make sure that the public is going to be the biggest audience for this, and so if you start to see poll numbers where people are very disenchanted with this process or feeling like this is really bad for our country, it's going to have to they're going to have to scale this back. But look, at the end of the day, this is going on. I mean, the door is open now, and they're going to have to, go through it and see where it takes them. But I hope that through this process that on both sides of the aisle we can be fair and not just make it a political thing, because look, these are unusual times for us, clearly, but I think it's time. I think the appetite overall is for America to come back together. I mean, that's what we keep hearing is we need to come back together as a country, and this could actually do the opposite.
Right. Well, right. I think it rallies us into our bases. We talk about taking side. Yeah. We're going to all be taking sides on this issue too. And I think the ultimate question is, as most elections are formed, is independent voters. The Democrats won them back in 2018, especially in the suburban districts. Will that be the case? That average independent viewer and that independent voter, where do you think that they stand on this? Or are they going to be split too?
Yeah. So look, we talk about those voters as the ones that voted for Obama, but they also voted for Trump.
Right.
And so those are the folks that we're looking at and where they're going to sway this time around. And really, right now, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I wish I could sit here and tell you, but I can't.
Not until more of the phone call comes out and more of the investigation goes forward.
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the politics afterwards.
Yeah, Vince, thanks so much for being here. We're going to, of course, follow this story continually as the days and weeks progress.
Oh, it ain't ending anytime
It
soon,
ain't
Vince. You
ending.
might as well just take residence up here.
Yeah.
We should start charging Vince some rent right over here.
I'll wait in
Yes.
the green room.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.